This is part 2 of chapter 7. Just wanted to finish up. We have a few more slides. So when I left you last, I was talking about progress monitoring, and remember keeping that triangle or that pyramid in mind that we've talked about. Tier 1, instruction for everyone, and that's maybe when you would do benchmarks, right? We talked about those, the benchmark tests for everybody. Tier 1, everybody gets the same benchmarks 3 times a year. Then tier 2, maybe we have a small group of 4 or 5 students, and we might want to monitor their progress a little more frequently. So maybe we would monitor theirs once a month, or maybe every other week, or something like that. And then when you get up to tier 3, you have those students who are really not responding to your tier 1 intervention, plus your tier 2 intervention, plus your tier 3 intervention. So you might want to monitor their progress even every week or something like that. Something a little more frequently than just those benchmark, tests or benchmark assessments, I guess, that you give 3 times a year. All right, so just wanted to kind of finish that up. But do remember dibbles.uoregon.edu. It's so wonderful and it's free. There are pages that are included where you can graph the students' progress. So that's really nice. So you can show the progress to parents or to gen ed teachers, if you're a special ed teacher, or to special ed teachers. If you're a gen ed teacher and you decide to do some of your own assessments, share that with the team. All right, so now let's get back to teaching letter sound correspondences. So again, as we've talked about, there are 26 letters, but just kidding, 44 speech sounds or phonemes in English. And people wonder why English is hard, right? So why it's a difficult language. And then to make it even better, more than 100 spellings or graphemes for these phonemes. So if English is not your first language, well, you're welcome, right? It's a little challenging, which goes back to what we said earlier in part 1 about reading needs to be explicitly taught. It's not just going to come naturally without any instruction. Okay, so we want to think about phonemes are divided into consonants and vowels. I'm sure you probably know this. Consonants are divided into stops, boom, stop, or continuance. Okay, I'm going to show you an example from the textbook. Consonant digraph, 2 consonants that make 1 sound. Consonant blend or cluster, combining sounds of 2 or more consonants so they are clustered together, and that's in table 7.3. I'm going to show y'all 7.2 in just a second. And of course, y'all, our vowel sounds have various spelling patterns. Again, children learning how to read, you're welcome. All right, so let me show you in the textbook. This is table 7.2, I believe. Let me just make sure that's what yes. And this is on page 186. So, consonant sounds, here are the typical spellings. And then here are, maybe some initial, pot, pick, stop might be a middle or a final sound. And then manner of articulation. This is where a speech language pathologist comes in. I never knew all of these phrases and all of these terms when I was teaching special ed. And I don't think you would necessarily be expected to, but if you're having, your students are having trouble with maybe a middle or a final sound, and I just said the sound for the letter P. I know it's hard to hear. So that's where you might talk to the speech language pathologist, and they might be able to show you or to show the students how to make those voiceless stops at the lips. Yeah, that is above my pay grade, people. So, but keep this table in mind. I think it's pretty handy. And then the next couple of tables that they talked about, and I know I'm not lined up, of course not, because every page is different. I swear it does this just to annoy me. So here are some consonant digraphs and clusters. So some digraphs would be, CH making the ch sound, GH making the f sound, like in the word rough, right? It sounds like the f sound, or tough. And here are some common initial consonant clusters. So such as, bull, cl, full, gl, stuff like that. And then some R clusters. Fr, of course, I like that one because of my last name. It should be an example, frog, from, fries. So I think these provide the textbook, especially these couple tables, provide some really good examples. And if you have students struggling with specific, clusters or digraphs or final consonant clusters with N or something like that, there are some really good examples here for you. And I think there's one more, table 7.4. And I'm showing you these tables just because I do want you to take a few minutes and, when you have a chance, look at the tables. And again, if you are working with children who might be struggling with some of these skills or these, these vowel sounds or something like that, go back to the textbook and see if you can provide some guidance to those students and some support. All right, so let's go back to the PowerPoint. Okay, so that was letter sound correspondences. And then there are some guidelines for teaching letter sound correspondences. So, we use letter sound correspondences, right? That's how we decode words. So we have to teach our students to blend and segment sounds so that they can decode and spell. Okay, so you want to think about, core set of consonants, short vowel sounds, and typically your ELA or your reading curriculum or one of your reading professors here at Francis Marion will tell you the specific order that you should use. So I'm not going to kind of belabor that. You want to teach them to blend and segment the sounds to read and spell the words, consistent key words for certain, for specific sounds, teach multiple sounds of letters such as k, then s, teach, excuse me, teach that different letters make the same sound, right? So we have the letter S that says s in sit. Oh, but guess what? Here we have the letter C that makes the s sound in city. But then C can also say k, right? Good times in English, I tell you. So you want to also think about how you can get the family involved in beginning reading. I know a lot of schools do some early literacy nights or, early literacy learning stations or something like that. So thinking about how the parents could help support the child. You could provide activities and demonstrate them to the parents as well, or to the guardians, that to the families, that shows some activities that they could do at home. Use some examples from the textbook, right? Some of them are pretty easy. You could write them up. You could send them an email. You could send home some worksheets, of copies from the textbook, something like that. You want to think about providing no cost or low cost resources to families to support the child's reading and also help parents understand the child's reading difficulties. And that's where I want to see if I can get back to it really quickly. That's where this Dibbles, hold on, let me see if I can get you the page where it's graphs. Hold on. Just sit with me for a minute. I guarantee you I picked the wrong one. You want to bet money? Oh, woohoo! I didn't look at that. So this you could use, okay, this is phoneme segmentation. So you have to, I don't know if it'll let me rotate it. Oh, look at that. Okay, so it will say month 1, month 2, month 3. So this is if you're monitoring their progress maybe once a week, right? Or 4 times a month. So you could, let's say the first time you did it, they got, and it's always 1 minute, I believe, unless that has changed. So in the first minute, or the first week, let's say they got 15 phonemes correct in 1 minute. Okay, so then you provide some instruction, you monitor them again next week. Hey, next week, guess what? They jump up to 16. Hey, the week after that, they jump up to 18. The week after that, they jump up to 20. Then they jump up to 22. Oh, guess what? Now it's starting to click. So you could actually plot the points and draw, and I'm not even going to try to do that on here. Plot the points and then draw the line to show their improvement. You could also show them, where a quote unquote typical learner at this age should be. And if a typical learner is at 35, let's say, and the student with whom you're working is at, 8. Well, then you could show the parents, hey, we have, we need to catch your child up a little bit. So here's what we're going to do. We might put them in some tier 2 intervention or something like that to catch them up. So I really like Dibbles again. And you can, of course, certainly use your own graphing programs. I know there's tons of graphing programs out there these days, but this one is really nice because it's here for you. So I just wanted to show you that, helping parents understand child their children's reading difficulties. So a couple more things: word identification, decoding, and word study. So sight words, you probably know what those are: readily recognized without conscious effort. So you don't even really have to think about what that word is. Think about how many words you read by sight every single day. That's what we want our students, right? We want them to read accurately and fluently without even having to think about it, while of course also understanding and comprehending what they are reading. So, your textbook has apply 7-2 to 7-3 and then figure 7-4 to 7-9 that really provide a lot more information about decoding strategies such as phonic analysis, onset rhyme. And this rhyme, R-I-M-E, is different than R-H-Y-M-E, right? So remember, keep that in mind. Structural analysis, so looking at root words, inflectional endings, stuff like that. Automatic word recognition, syntax and semantics, and other resources. Okay, so again, if you go into the textbook, apply 7.2. Okay, sorry, I paused it just for a second because I wanted to get to 7.2, which is on page 190. There's identify and blend letter sound correspondences. So it gives you a little more information about what each of those strategies mean, what they might look like. And here's some examples of how you could assist the students in using phonic analysis to decode words. Okay, and then so just keep looking again through your textbook. There's some really good examples. As I said, as the chapters kind of go on a little more into the textbook, which obviously where else would the chapters be? All right. So, then we're talking about teaching phonics, word recognition, and word study. And there are a couple slides, 2 slides that go with this. So, that explicit code is that emphasis on phonics. So think about how you learned to read. Did you learn by using phonics? Did you learn whole language? That kind of used to be one of the buzzwords. Did you learn another way? Was it a combination of things? So thinking about how you're going to really explicitly teach students to blend sounds to make words and then segment sounds to spell. So they're going to go kind of blending to make the words and segmenting or breaking them apart to spell the words. So practice and review in various contexts, those decodable texts. Starfall, I think, is great. Starfall.com has a lot of those decodable texts. Thinking about how you can use multisensory, visual, auditory, kinesthetic, and tactile tasks to assist your students with reading. And then word study, develop vocabulary by making words, building words, word walls. And I know Dr. Gunther used to do a lot with making words, and there's there's books called Making Words. I don't know if she still does that, but it's something that you could easily find online as well. So then the second slide about this, implicit code. So the first slide was explicit, right? And the next one is implicit. So this is where you're focusing on context clues. So sight words and discovering patterns in these words, at, cat, fat, hat, mat, etc. All those word families. Onset rhyme, same thing, right? So I guess I kind of gave an example of onset rhyme. My bad, I got ahead of myself, as always. Language patterns at the sentence level, help students who have difficulty developing sight vocabulary. And again, you could use the Fernald, that's how I pronounce it. I might pronounce it incorrectly. Method of tracing, saying, and writing words. We used to use something in Charleston, and it was similar to like Orton Gillingham, but it wasn't called that. And you would have to, if the word was cat, you would start with your hand on your shoulder and, say at. You would do the sounds and then run your arm from your shoulder down to your wrist. Cat, something like that. Or C-A-T, going shoulder, elbow, wrist, and then blending it together. Cat. And I know it probably loses a lot in the video translation, and that's okay. Your textbook has some great examples. And then some techniques for building sight words, sight word association, picture association, and then sentence word association. So, and of course, you can find more in your textbook. I know I keep saying that, but you really can. That is, again, why I keep this textbook. I think there are some really good ideas in the textbook, and I just don't have the time, unfortunately, when I am doing these recordings to get into a lot of detail. So there are also check out all these instructional activities. You may choose to do some of these for your presentations. Of course, you don't have to. Vowel match, sight word bingo, compound concentration, go fish for rhymes, stuff like that. So check out your textbook chapter 7, well, all the chapters, but really chapter 7 for some great ideas. All right, that's it for chapter 7.